Welcome in to this edition of Baxter Street Boys. I'm your host, Cole Wilcox, joined as always by my co-host, Jake Gordon, and our producer, Griffin Rudy. We're excited to come to y'all on this bye week Thursday because we have what you've all been waiting for, a little college basketball preview, and the Hoop Dawgs have a brand new team, and we're bringing you all you need to know. New coach, new roster, everything, new energy. We're excited for it. Hope you guys are too. Before we get into all that, though, as you know, we got to talk about our friends at Turtle Box. These guys are the best. We've told you before. If this is any indictment, I have a story. I left my Turtle Box. I didn't leave it. My roommate, you could claim, stole it. And he lives in Chattanooga now. And I've been asking for my Turtle Box back for about a week now. And he's like, I'm in Nashville this week, blah, 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 all this stuff. He's doing everything he can to keep the Turtle Box. But I told him all he has to do is use code BSB10 and he'll get 10% off any purchase he has. So you can go buy his own Turtle Box, 10% off. It's the best. Like I said, if you don't believe me, use our code, get one, and then you be the critic. How about that? Let's get into the show, though. A lot to talk about. Griff, let it rip.
Oh, he's running over people. Oh, you hurt the walking. We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
Defense, 40, 30, they won't catch him. Go, Swift, into the end zone. Touchdown! The freshman just ran it back to Philadelphia. Throws near sideline, and it's intercepted. Intercepted. Keely Ringo at the 21. Off he goes. 40, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, near sideline. Breaks the tackle. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Georgia.
I know I'm asking a lot, you guys, but hunker it down one more time.
All right, boys. Good to be back on the mic. Hope everyone's had a good week so far. I'm not gonna lie, the college football slate this week. Maybe it's just because Georgia's not in it, but it's weak. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
Yeah, it's definitely not as interesting. I still found a couple plays that I like, but yeah, I'm definitely not in love with it like last week. Last week was about as good as it gets, and then this week it seems like it could be a big letdown.
Yeah,
I think that might be part of it too. Is like last week was just so crazy and just peak college football that like
awesome.
This week was going to be bad no matter what.
Yeah.
So before we dive into some basketball, is there any UGA football news we need to hit on before?
Ryan Puglisi, is that how you say his name?
Mm-hmm.
2024 quarterback. Looks like that's going to be their guy. Hilarious, by the way. It happens to a lot of teams, so. But I went and checked him on On3 whenever he committed, and then I went and looked back the next day, and they had already moved him up to their third-ranked quarterback, and he got an extra star just like that. So it's funny how those things go, but
it does.
That's not how this staff looks at these players. They don't go through 247 and look at the rankings and look at stars. That's just not how it goes. So none of that really matters at all. I did think it was funny though.
You don't have to go very far to find out how this staff develops 3 stars that they usually get. I remember this guy signing late to, I think it was the 2017 class. He was a track runner. He was just on signing day, kind of like they had one extra scholarship, so they gave it to him. His name's Eric Stokes, and he starts opposite Jair Alexander for the Green Bay Packers. Another guy from North Carolina, Jordan Davis. He turned out pretty good. So they have a history of finding these guys and making them pretty good. DeAndre Baker, Monty Rice, just to name a few. So
and Tay Crowder wasn't he like a 2-star running back?
Yeah,
coming out of high school.
Yeah,
and he's a NFL starter for the Giants.
Stetson Bennett didn't have many stars. So
yeah,
I'm super excited about this guy. I couldn't find much game film on him, but somebody finally posted his huddle.
His competition's pretty.
It's bad.
Oof.
It's bad. But there are some throws he made, like we talked about with Beck last week, where it really doesn't matter who he's facing. Like you could just see the arm talent. And the word on the street is they got this guy on campus for a camp, and they just fell in love with him. And I think Buster Faulkner was very heavy into this. Todd Monken and Buster Faulkner kind of took it over, like we want our quarterback. And hopefully that means they're going to stay around. And they really like this guy. They took him over a couple other dudes, and I'm excited for him. He's got all the intangibles of being a freak. So I'm sure he has the tangibles too. I said that wrong. He has the tangibles of being a freak. Hopefully the intangibles come if the Georgia staff loves him this much.
Yep.
Well, also there was some good news on Smile Mondon. It sounds like he's back and a full go. Some of the other guys are still banged up a little bit. AD, Jalen Carter, some of those guys. So hopefully they use the bye week to get right, and then we need all hands on deck when we go south to that dump. Who I do respect the people that defend Jacksonville. Like I understand, like if you've been going to that game for years and years, you went with your family, you have your own spot. I could see the pull to it. I really could. It's kind of tradition, especially like the South Georgia crowd. They love it. I'm sure the North Florida people love it too, and that's cool. But I'm from North Georgia.
The name alone is almost a little bit worth it. The world's largest cocktail party, like
no doubt, the scene is cool and all. But like, I guess if you're just not rooted in it like that, you just don't have I guess you're not as passionate for the game as I am. I guess. That's all the news I know off the top of my head. Anything else you got?
That's about all I got.
Rest up by week. Billy Napier did say they're not going to focus on us till after tomorrow. They'll flip the script and start focusing on Georgia.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Good luck.
Good for
Nate.
them.
Good luck, Nate. All right. As everyone knows, we have a new man leading the charge in the Stegman Coliseum for the UGA Hoop Dogs.
Yeah, speaking of Florida.
Yeah, speaking of Florida. The last tenure didn't go real well. I don't think anyone would argue that. I don't think Tom Crean himself would argue that. I feel like it killed some of the energy that Mark Fox was starting to build. And I hated to see it because he came with all the energy. He got Anthony Edwards, which was awesome. I mean, that was awesome. He had a lot of people in the stands, and then it just fell apart. And for me, and I don't know, you guys may disagree, I thought it just had to do, like, if I asked you guys right now, what was Tom Crean's identity as a coach, what would you say?
Couldn't tell you. Having Anthony Edwards.
That was my point, and we talked
running
about
up and down the court as fast as you possibly could.
Kind of, but it was like we're gonna have shooters. We're gonna shoot the Brock. It's gonna be blah blah, and then we had no shooters.
Yeah,
none ever. Like you want to recruit to your strengths, but if you can't get those recruits, you might have to adjust what you do. So this is what I really, really, really like about Mike White. Let's go through a little history lesson on Mike White. He was an Ole Miss assistant from 2005 to 2011. He was up for he was well known during that time as one of the top assistant coaches in the country. Landed at Louisiana Tech for a couple years. They had some of their best years ever in basketball. Went to NIT, won the conference, stuff like that. Then he goes to Florida. And let me set the stage for you. So if you know Florida fans, you probably know they're tired of Mike White. Whatever, but yada, yada, yada. But let's think back to football. They've hated every coach they've had up to this point because they came after Urban Meyer, who is one of the best, whether you like him or not, he's one of the greatest college football coaches ever. Mike White came in directly after Billy Donovan, who won back-to-back national championships. He had no chance from the start. Let me tell you what he did, and let me see if this would fly at Georgia. His second year at Florida, he goes to the Elite Eight. The next 3 tournaments he makes, and he wins the first round in all 3 of those. You're getting a statue built at Georgia if you do that.
Yeah.
In all honesty, you're getting a statue built.
And what was the last year we made the tourney was 2014. So our freshman year of high school. Yeah, our freshman year of high school, we played Michigan State, who did make the Final Four that year.
Yeah, well, that's tournament is though. Tournament is though. Yeah. But I really, really like Mike White. He has an identity, and I guess I set the stage for that because he changed it a little bit last year. He kind of changed it to the personnel that he had and kind of the way the game is going. If you've seen on Twitter, I put a couple film study breakdowns on there, just short ones. And Griff, I think you have the videos, don't you?
Yeah, I do. If you want me to pull them up.
Yeah, you can turn the volume down. I'll just talk about it a little bit. Just play one of them.
Yeah.
So Mike White and a lot of people at Florida got real upset with their offense at the time. They thought it was stagnant, this, that, and another. And the numbers disagreed. Like, it was really, really efficient. They call it the Princeton offense. Can you pause it, Griff?
Yeah.
So they called it the Princeton offense, and the Princeton offense is pretty much set up to hold the ball, slow the tempo of the game, work the possession, kind of like Mark Fox. If you remember back to Mark Fox, kind of that offense where it seems like you're always taking a shot at the end of the shot clock. So this past year, he transitioned to this 5-wide set. And you can do a lot out of a 5-wide set. All the NBA teams have kind of transitioned into it. And it all starts with like having athletic bigs, which we'll talk about some of those players specifically later. let me get to the part of the video I want to get to. So what you can do out of this is just an example. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'll try my best to explain it. There's 5 people, obviously, wide. They get the ball to the athletic post at the high post, and then they set a down screen for a shooter on the right side of the court. He's going to come off that screen and then take a dribble handoff from the athletic post, and his guy's going to have to try to fight through 2 screens to get there, and there's just too much space, too quick of screens to get there, and it's a wide open 3. So if you're watching on YouTube, that's just kind of an example of something you can do out of the 5 wide, but that's like there's just so many things you can do, and it all starts with having really smart guards. Really smart guards has to set up the 5 wide, and then have an athletic post to kind of work stuff around is huge too, which you'll find out later we do have. So the last thing I have on Mike White is he's kind of a guard guru. That was his thing at Ole Miss. He coached the guards. He's a guy who knows guards. He probably played guard growing up in high school, played it in college, and he's a guy who's very tough on guards. He expects a lot out of them. So if you come play point guard for Mike White, you better be ready to learn, better be ready to run the offense. And he went in the transfer portal, and he got some that I think will be able to.
Yeah, that's a perfect transition, because I was going to say it looks like Terry Roberts is going to be one of those guys, and Mardez McBride's going to be another one. Terry Roberts was out of Bradley, averaged almost 15 points, 4 assists, good on-ball defender, 1.6 steals.
Yep.
And Mardez McBride, he when he was at North Texas, they won the Conference USA Tournament Championship and the regular season title. He shot about 40% from 3, so that's a good start right there.
Yep, no doubt about it. And if you notice about those guys, they're older transfer portal guys. And when you want leadership, when you want a culture change, you go try to find guys who are, number one, older. They know how to play basketball in college. They know the ins and outs, and they're probably good leaders on that team. And I saw some quotes of him talking about Terry, and you can just tell he expects a lot out of him. He's saying that he's done really well for us. He's a guy who people migrate towards, but he's gonna have to learn his temperaments in different situations. He's gonna have to control that type of stuff, and he's probably pretty good at it. But Mike White is gonna expect perfection at the point guard, because the point guard is the quarterback of the offense in basketball, and you need that guy to set the tone mentally, physically, everything. So I would say he really, really likes Terry. Terry's probably his guy, and he's gonna ride him hard, which is good.
Yeah, and you talk about bringing in, transfers, older guys. They had 11 people enter the portal after Tom Green was fired. This place was a mess, and everybody's like, you know what, let's just get out of here. Thankfully, 2 of the guys that came back are probably 2 of the 3 best players that were on that team anyways. You did lose P.J. Horn, who missed all of last year with a torn ACL. You lost Noah Bauman. But at a certain point, there were only 3 scholarship players on the rosters, and 2 of the guys were ones that came back. Cario, who he had offers from Kentucky, Oregon, Florida, Bama. Like Cario was going to go play somewhere and make a difference, like we saw with Katie Johnson and Severe. Mm-hmm. But Jackson Etter coming back is huge too. He's a solid outside shooter. I think he'll have a bigger role this year. And then Braylon Bridges, who's kind of like the glue of this team. He's always been a constant, I'd say, through the ups and downs and everything. You can pretty much depend on Braylon Bridges. And those are the 3 I would say. If you maybe pick 3 guys off the last team to bring back, it would probably be those 3.
Well, that's kind of the thing is, you hear a lot of teams that, like, take football, for instance. I remember Tennessee back in the day. They'd be like, oh, we bring back 9 starters on defense. Well, you went 5-7. Like, is that really a good thing? Do you really want to bring those guys back? And so when you win 3 games in basketball, which is like borderline impossible to do, like at some point you got to get hot and make some shots, and it just didn't happen. We never won. So you really don't want to bring those guys back. So it looks like a max exodus, but Mike White went in and got the guys he wanted to stay and brought them back. Like you said, Jake, the players that we need back this year, he went back and got.
Yeah, Cario was right on the edge of leaving, and then he just came back, and that was I'm so glad about that.
I was shocked he came back. I was extremely shocked he came back.
Which I'm so happy about it.
And for people who are not familiar with basketball, this is Cario Quindo. He was a freshman last year, and he's kind of super raw when he came in. I think he's a 3-star guy out of the Atlanta area, and we kind of saw him blossom. He turned into he's kind of spazzy a little bit still, but it started turning into good spaz. Like, he attacks the rim at like just relentless pace.
Violent,
Yeah, he's not
flyer.
He's not a fantastic shooter, but shooting usually gets better as your years progress in college. You become more relaxed, heart rate slows down a little bit. So if his shooting goes up, like he'll be one of the most complete players in the SEC because he gets to the line at an elite clip. I think he averaged like 5 free throws a game. He's a guy who he will attack the goal on anyone. He will try to dunk on fives. He's an exciting player that UGA fans will love. If you didn't watch last year and you want to start getting into it this year, he will be a fan favorite.
I would definitely call him the best player. He did have a performance, I think, against Texas A&M right before the season ended. He had 33 points. That was kind of his big coming out party. And there is another guy that Georgia's getting back that, not a lot of fans may not know about. Jalen Ingram. He was playing really well before he tore his ACL before conference play started last year. I think he was double figures in 7 or 9 games. So that's another scorer right there, which God knows this team needs.
Yeah. And I saw
that's just about it for everybody coming back. That's about it.
I saw a report on Jalen Ingram. Like you said, he tore his ACL last year. He's just now starting to do some contact stuff. So we probably won't see him at the very beginning of the year. Hopefully, though, as the year goes on, we'll see him more and more because, like you said, he was a guy who could really help us put the ball in the hole. It was a big loss for us last year. Probably hurt more than
him and PJ Horn too. Both of them.
Probably really hurt. And I understand that losing key players is tough, but you have to get some depth in. Like if your season lives and dies by one player, you're probably not going to be very good in basketball because injuries are going to happen. It's a sport that is brutal. And you play a lot of games. I mean, it is a long season. College basketball is. So let's hit on the guys, and you mentioned their names, but let's hit on the guys that stayed. We already talked about Cario. Already talked about Jalen. I love me some Braylon Bridges. Braylon Bridges is a guy who is going to thrive in that 5-wide set that I showed you earlier. There was a play I put on Twitter. Griff, you don't have to pull it up, but follow us on Twitter because I'll be posting some of this stuff periodically, especially when the season starts. I'll try to break down some stuff. Yeah, you can just play it while I talk. But what is so great about an athletic big in this 5-wide set is
example of how
there's going to be so much space for him to operate. And when you have an athletic big, it's very rare that another big can stay in front of him. This is Colin Castleton for Florida, who is one of the most athletic bigs in the country. He's very good. But all it is just getting the ball in space, letting him go by his guy, and there's no help in the paint. Because everybody's spread out. You've got guys who can shoot. You can't come off and help because it'll be kicked out for 3. You'd much rather trade a 2 for a 3, but this is quick. Just get in the ball, one dribble, by his guy, easy 2. Yep. And if the guy comes off and helps, it's a kick to the corner for a 3. That's what you got to do. Or that's what the benefit of having that set is. And I think Braylon Bridges is the guy that can really take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. And, the best example, the most pure example you could probably have when you talk about that distributing big man at the top of the key is Nikola Jokic. Mm-hmm. Jokic, not Jovic. Jovic got drafted by the Heat. Jokic sees the floor better than pretty much any big man that's ever played the game. So it's a little different. But when you see him at the top of the key with the ball, it's kind of that same type of, offense you want to get moving. You want to have movement around him. And when you can have a big that can distribute like that, it's so different than what a lot of teams have. A lot of teams in college basketball still have a traditional center, still have a feed it down to him in the post, let him dribble 3 or 4 times and attack the rim, maybe draw a foul.
Yeah. And Braylon Bridges isn't like, he's not as athletic as Jokic, obviously. That's a different type of tier. Yeah. But he is able to do that. He can put the ball on the floor once and go by someone. And even if like Frank Anselm is a transfer we got from Syracuse. He's a 6'11" guy. He's from Georgia. Very, very talented. I think he was a 4-star when he went to Syracuse. Mm-hmm. He's from Georgia. He's transferring back home. So now we have 2 guys down low, 2 posts, true centers that are very athletic. But even in this set, if you're not at the most athletic, you can still really, really thrive because there's a lot of down screens, a lot of dribble handoffs. And so even if you're not a guy, a post who's going to go by someone and take it to the rack, you're still a guy who can thrive in this set because there's so much space and you can do so much out front. You can take your guy out of the paint. So whatever it is, you need a big guy in this set, and we have 2 with Anselm and Bridges, which will be nice.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who starts out of this group too.
Yeah, and with Bridges too. I mean, we talked about what he can do for us on offense, but he's solid on the other side of the ball too. Mm-hmm. And I mean, last year Georgia defensively it was awful. Like it was hard to watch most of the time. We gave up 78.5 points per game, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That's awful.
But yeah,
it sounds great in the NBA.
Definitely need help there.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely need help there.
The last guy to talk about that is returning before we get the transfers is of course Jackson Eder, who is a fan favorite. He's a walk-on. He's still a walk-on, but he started almost every game for us last year. It seemed like He's a guy who he's just gritty. Like that's how you describe him. He's gritty. Like he will lead the league in charges. I'm pretty sure he did last year. He will take a charge.
He took a bunch in that Bama game.
He's not he's not a great defender, but he's a willing defender, which is almost just as good. Defense in basketball is all about want to. There's obviously different levels to defenders, and some are better than others, but it's about 80% just wanting to be a defender makes you pretty good, and that's him. He also entered the transfer portal, came back on a preferred walk-on, which kind of speaks to his love for the program and his buy-in to Mike White. So excited to see those guys come back.
One more guy that's coming back too, Jabri Abdul-Rahim.
Yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah,
Virginia guy. Showed some flashes last year. I think he could be solid offensively for us.
Well, he was like a top 50 player in the country coming out of high school.
He went to Virginia. He went to Virginia and transferred to Georgia last year.
If Tony Bennett likes you, that speaks pretty highly of you.
Yes, he is. You're right. He is a guy I almost forgot about, but he's kind of the guy that like you put your finger on. It's like if he clicks, this team can be really, really good.
Right.
He's that talented. He can defend. He's long. He can really shoot. He can do a lot of different things. And the Abdur-Rahim name probably rings a bell because his family's coaching everywhere. There was assistant coach at Georgia. One of them was the head coach at Georgia State. I think he is now, and his brother went to help. So it's a basketball family, and so he knows how to play, man. And he's so talented that if he can just put it together, and he would be a guy, like a go-to guy for this team that could really get a bucket, which would be huge.
Yeah, he's got a jumper that you just like, that you like to watch in slow motion.
Smooth.
You know,
it's smooth.
You like to watch it in slow motion.
It's smooth. Yeah. So those are the guys. We appreciate them coming back. I mean, we needed them. We need some guys with steady presence that know the lay of the land. And I think those guys are going to be really, really good this year. Their second year. All of them, except for Eder, is their second year in the program. Let's talk about some transfers. We already hit on Terry Roberts. He came from Bradley. He averaged 14.5 points a game, 4.1 assists, 1.6 steal. Good on-ball defender. And that's kind of the mold that he recruited at guard. Guys who can do a little bit of everything. Good on-ball defenders. Cario's a good on-ball defender. So they have some on-ball defenders on the perimeter, which we have been lacking recently, and I think Terry's going to do a good job of coming into that. Who's another transfer that we should have our eye on, Jake?
Matthew Alexander Moncrief out of Oklahoma State. Yeah, this is he's going to be a big piece off the bench, especially wing has been an issue pretty much ever since Ant left. I like him a lot. I think he's going to get some minutes too. Oklahoma State obviously is an incredible program. It's like Virginia when you talk about getting good transfers. So I like this kid a lot. He's another one. And Justin Hill out of Longwood, 36 double-figure scoring outputs, including 8 20-point performances, I believe, in like a year and a half. So he can score. That might be your microwave guy off the bench if McBride doesn't come off the bench.
And you might look at that and say, he's coming from Longwood. But number one, Longwood, I'm pretty sure won a tournament game. If they didn't, they at least covered.
I think they lost to Tennessee, but they did cover.
They covered, yes. And Longwood, it doesn't matter where you play in college. If you can score anywhere. Like scorers can score. And this guy's going to come in. He will have no problem scoring. There's other boxes he needs to check. But sometimes all you need is a guy who can score. Think of like a Jordan Clarkson in the NBA. He literally can't do anything else. He can't rebound, can't defend, can't do any of that. But he can score. And he plays because he can score. You need somebody, like you said, Jake, a microwave off the bench that just knows how to put the ball in the bucket. That can get some momentum going. And he is definitely a guy who can be that. One guy that I want to watch out for, and I really don't know how to say his first name, which is bad.
That's why I haven't said it yet.
But I think it's Jason. I think it's Jason
too.
Jason Holt,
he's a Roswell kid.
Is very, very similar to Abdur-Rahim. Like he was an extremely talented guy who went to Bama last year, and Bama had one of the best recruiting classes in college basketball history last year, other than like your Dukes with Zion and all them. They had like 4 4-stars, like 3 5-stars. It was stupid. He just couldn't find the court because you had Keon Ellis in front of him. You had Petty in front of him, like all these guys who've either been there a long time or were just supremely like top of the draft talented.
Yeah, he was listed at guard at a high school at 6'7", and I think he's listed at forward now.
Well, he's a sniper too.
Yeah, he could be like that combo, that combo guard forward. I don't know how he holds up defensively, but he could shoot.
Right. Yeah, extremely, extremely talented. And like I said, similar to Abdur-Rahim, it's if he puts it all together, he's like a guy who has lottery type potential talent and build. So those are the guys that you're willing to take a chance on. When you have guys like Terry Roberts come in where you know what you're going to get out of him. He's not a lottery pick, probably not an NBA guy, but you know he's going to go out there, he's going to take care of the ball, he's going to defend, and he's going to make plays. When you have some guys like that and you go out and put those pieces in place, you can go get a Jason Holt who you hope clicks in that environment with guys around him that can hold him accountable. And if he does click, this team goes to a whole different level.
Absolutely.
And then the last one we had was Martez McBride, a North Texas transfer. He won the 2021 Conference USA Tournament Championship and 2022 Conference regular season title.
We did McBride. I think he could be a starter next to. It's going to be a combination of him, Robertson, Abdur-Rahim probably in those guard spots. It'll be interesting to see because I can tell you right now, I can pencil in 2, maybe 3 starters. Couldn't tell you who else it's going to be. So it'll be really interesting to see how they split up these minutes.
Yep, and he's a really good outside shooter, which we need. We have not had a lethal shooter since who, Griff?
I would say JJ Frazier.
Literally like that.
Hold on. I got to get this thing. It broke actually yesterday. I knocked it off my freaking desk.
Yeah. What's cool?
JJ Frazier.
Oh yeah. If you don't think I'm qualified to talk about basketball, let's take a look at this.
Oh wow.
If you're not watching on YouTube, I'll try to describe it for you. This is how you teach it, folks. Going to my dominant hand, just laser focus on the rim. Hand in my face, doesn't matter. Looking at the rim the whole time. That's probably an and one. So I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, Cole's a guy who averaged, 19-11 your senior year?
Listen, as soon as I walked in the gym, it was a double-double. All you had to worry about is if the triple was coming. Like the double-double was there. It was on average. It was actually 18 and 12, but 19-11 sounds a little better.
Does it?
Get the extra rebound. Get the extra board.
Yeah.
18 and 12. So let's kind of talk about how the season could go. Do you have, before we start, Griff, give us some of the stats from last year, and let's talk about the areas we vastly need to improve.
Okay. Well, it's hard. It's going to be harder to get worse than last year than it is to get better.
Agreed.
Because we went 6-26 overall last year, 1-17 in the SEC. Suck it, Bama. You are 1 win, just like football.
Which is hilarious.
The one game that I went to.
One of the most talented teams in the freaking country.
Funny enough, I actually took Georgia money line that night just for fun. I put like $5 on Georgia plus 500.
Probably won. I was gonna say probably won a good decent amount.
Plus 500. And then points scored, we averaged 69.8 per game. Points allowed, we already talked about it, 78.5. And we also averaged 14.4 turnovers per game, which is absolutely horrendous. It feels like it's always been a problem since I've been watching Georgia basketball, but never as bad as it was last year.
That's going to change. I will put my foot down and say that will change. Maybe not this year. Like it's still going to be tough to get some things going, but that actually it will definitely go down this year. I don't know how drastic it will be, but Mike White is a guard guy. He's going to be hard on the point guard. He's going to be hard on those guys. They're not going to turn the ball over as much.
They're not going to be 13th in the SEC either.
No. That was projections come out today that had UGA ranked
top
13th in the SEC. I agree. I think they're better than the teams like.
And when I say top 8, I probably mean 8, but top 8.
Top 8 sounds better than 8. So the way Mike White kind of built this schedule, I really like. So we open up with WCU, and then we go to Wake, and that's kind of the litmus test for me. It's kind of like, all right, this is where we at. What do we need to work on? What do we need to get right? You have the tune-up game, and then you go play at Wake, which is a really good school. If you remember last year, they were in the top 25 most of the year. They're a school that's really, really good. So that'll give us what we need. And then we have a stretch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games where we will be heavily favored. Those are the get-right games. Those are what fix what you need to fix before you get in the meat of your schedule. Then obviously it's going to take an uptick as SEC play starts, which is all of a sudden a great basketball conference. But what do y'all want to see in those first, let's say, 10 games to give you confidence going into conference play?
We didn't talk about this guy, and this is a guy I do want to see at some point. I want to see Kyron Lindsey.
Yes, I did.
4-star power forward. Yep. That's Mike White's first big recruit. I want to see if he gets some burn. I'd love to see a lot of guys rotating in. That's what I want to see. I want to see some depth. I want to see a lot of guys in, a lot of guys out. Let's get good looks at everybody. I'm sure they're going to do that for purposes of evaluation, especially if they start blowing teams out.
Yeah.
But a lot of things, I want to see crisp shooting, and I just kind of want to see these guys buying into the offense and especially the defense. You know, if you have a defensive scheme, a good one, you can overcome not all-world defenders. If you have good team defense and good buy-in, you can play good defense.
And like I said, that's cool. Like that is all culture. Like the coaches that are the best are the ones that get their team to buy in on defense. One of my favorite coaches in the league is Nate Oates at Alabama. And his whole,
hate to admit it.
Yeah, it is. He's awesome. And his whole recruiting philosophy, I listened to a whole podcast with him, was like, if you buy into my defense and if you will play defense, I will give you free reign on offense. I will let you do what you want to do. You'll be in a set, but I will let you do it. You can take your shot. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you like buying on defense, do what you want to do on offense. How would you not want to go play for that? Yeah. And that's kind of what Mike White's doing with the five. The 5 wide gives people so much freedom, but you have to trust your players. Like you have to have smart basketball players, skilled basketball players. So that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see an identity. I want to see, like you said, Jake, I want to see us be able to really have a want to play some on-ball defense. Don't let people go by you. That's when the posts get in foul trouble. Stay in front of your guy. Really, really want to defend him. And then on offense, be you. Play within the system, which is 5 wide, which doesn't have a lot of barriers. Like you're free to do a lot. There's so many things you can do out of it. So I want to see Mike White establish a culture on defense and then find roles for everyone on offense and get those people and then play to their strengths. Find your role and play to that strength.
It's like I said, I hate to give Nate Oates credit because he is Alabama's coach, but man, his offense is poetry in motion. He runs a 5 out just as good as anybody.
Yep. What's funny is in their practices, a deep 3 is worth 4 points. A regular three worth 3, layup worth 2, mid-range jumper 1. We don't want to. He hates mid-range jumpers, his lowest percentage shot in basketball.
Yeah.
But
I love that too.
The old heads will absolutely tear you to shreds over that.
Nobody has
Larry Bird
jumper anymore.
Make that every time.
That's that was. I remember they showed the heat map. I think when they were in the tournament, and it was showing like their shots from mid range versus like the ones in the key and outside of 3, and they had taken like 40 mid range shots all year or something like that.
Yep. It's a whole different system, man, and I'm excited to watch us play just because I do think there will be more of an identity. I've talked to a lot of people in the athletic program or athletic department, and they love Mike White. They say he's a people guy. He's a dude that builds relationships, which was not always said in previous tenures. So that's number one is a good step. Like you want the players to buy in and want to play for him. You have good relationship as a coach with your players. That's when you start setting a culture. And him going out and getting guys like Terry Roberts, getting guys like Hill, dudes who can come in and make an immediate impact, who have proven at really good mid majors that they're the alpha dog. Come be the alpha dog at one of the biggest schools in America.
Yeah, and when you talk about something that you really want, you said identity. That's definitely what you want. I mean, the past few years with Crean, we've never had that. And but with Mark Fox, we did have an identity. And it was kind of like
it was boring.
It was boring, and that's what I will say. It was boring. That we played defense really well though, and we would kind of make other teams play sloppy. It was like you would have to watch an ugly basketball game, but you were going to be in it. No doubt. I liked Mark Fox. We didn't have the best of teams during that time, but we were always right there on the bubble. But I think Mike White can really take us to another level.
No doubt. And when you don't have the culture, you don't have anything to buy into. So like there's no goal. And if they're going to buy in on the defensive side of the court, that creates momentum for your offense. And like you said, in the 5 out, you're playing free. You're doing what you want to do. And so I'm excited to see in those first 10 games, I hope we establish that and then go into conference play because there's pieces there for this team to be really good. You've heard us talk about them. Like we said, there's some real talent that if they hit, they could be really, really good. But I think at minimum, the floor could be pretty low. But I would say that my prediction is I think we're a bubble team. I genuinely think we're a bubble team this year.
Dude, I was talking myself into us winning the SEC tournament somehow and making. I'm
all for
easy
it
to get bought in. Yeah, it's not hard,
dude. It's easy for me too. Last year, when the SEC tournament started. I was like, hey, we can make a run.
And
we
we
can do it.
Well, here's what I will say
can.
about Griff. Griff's the most loyal Georgia basketball fan there is out there. I promise you. If you think you're more loyal than Griff, maybe just Sweater Man. Like, this dude's been watching UJ basketball since we were in, like, 5th grade. I remember watching, like, back in the day when we're making the run in the tournament. We're winning 2 games in one day. That was sick. And I was young, but it was still awesome. I didn't realize how cool it was at the time. But one thing that, Griff, I know you like is that Mike White has brought on some former players on the coaching staff.
Oh, yeah. Kenny Gaines, Charles Mann. Those are some dudes.
Some really good, really good guards. Really good guards that knew how to run an offense.
Charles Mann was unbelievable at getting to the free throw line. His problem was he could not make the free throws. He went about 58% from the line, but he could get there every time if he wanted to.
Every time. Kenny Gaines was awesome. Probably the most underrated Georgia basketball player of all time. He was
cool. And the first Georgia basketball game I ever went to was, I think, was it 2011 maybe? But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was on the team. I know that for a fact. And we played Tennessee at home, and he went off. He had like 28 points. It was sick. It was an awesome game to be at. But that was when I kind of really fell in love with Georgia basketball, and just like I actually watched it every day. But my favorite player, without a doubt, Nemi Djuricic. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's the GOAT. I love that man.
Nemi was cool.
Oh my God. Well, you talk about that stretch of 10 games against pretty easy opponents. Then you got Georgia Tech on December 6th, and they're not looking that great. I think Josh Pastner randomly, I think some couple was just indicted for trying to extort him. So I don't know what they got going on over there.
They were ranked preseason pretty high, but I don't see it personally.
I saw some ACC predictions that said they might finish dead last.
Really? They're preseason ranked 15th in the freaking AP poll, I think.
Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure it might have been women's. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But it was basketball for sure, because if it was football, I mean, obviously they'd have been last. But this is an interesting game. December 18th against Notre Dame at State Farm Arena. I think that would be a very fun one. We might take a field trip.
I think we got to take the BSB trip there. And
what date is that?
It would be a lot of fun. December 18th.
Okay, yeah, I might could make that. We'll
see. If we lose the SEC championship, I'm probably not going to be in the mood to watch sports for like 3 days.
No, that'd be a bad December.
We're not going to though. We're not going to.
Yeah, we're not. And then this January is really going to make or break this team. I included a February 1st game, but it's 5 games. You get Auburn, January 4th. You get Florida at Florida, January 7th. At Kentucky, January 17th. At Tennessee, January 25th. And then you finish at Auburn, February 1st. That is a gauntlet, all on the road pretty much, except Auburn at home. That's probably going to tell the tale of the season. If you could come out with 2 wins out of that, I'm going to be really impressed. But
I will say though, and we'll talk a lot about this throughout the year, the biggest thing they use in basketball, which I do not agree with, they use KenPom and they use FPI. You do not get hurt for losing on the road. So if any game you steal on the road, you go flying up. So that's an opportunity. If you can win really one of those, that puts you in a real good position for FPI. You don't want to lose at home, but if you win on the road, you go flying up.
Yeah, and what I really want to see is I want to see Georgia beat. You got to beat the teams you should. We saw the blown leads to South Carolina last week. Vanderbilt doesn't have a great program. Missouri doesn't have a great program. Ole Miss, South Carolina, none of those guys are going to be good this year. You got to win those games. That's what it starts with.
That's something Georgia basketball has always struggled with too since I've been watching. It's just they would play really well one week, and then next week they'd come out versus a team. They just always played to their competition. Even if the competition was better, they would make them play an ugly game. If the competition was worse, we would play down to the uglier level of them.
That speaks to culture, though. And I think that's a good place to end. That's just kind of the preseason stuff. Obviously, we're going to have plenty more basketball coverage. We're all excited about it. Hope you guys are too, because it's going to be fun. And the better atmosphere that we create, the better recruits we get, the better teams we get. So
yeah, and support the basketball team, guys. You know, even if you're not the biggest fan, try to go to a game. Try to tune in. If you want to go to a game, it's a fun thing to do. We want to be in everything school.
If you watch the first couple games, you will be bought in. Like that's how it works. Like you watch the first couple of games, you turn into a fan. You know the players, you see what they're doing. All of a sudden, it's January and we're going through this gauntlet, and we're projected to make the tournament, and you're bought in. So
Yeah, winning cures everything. That's obviously
doubt.
Fun,
that's
guys.
obviously a
I
basic.
promise. I've been watching it for a long time. Last year was hard, but I've been watching Georgia basketball for a while now.
It's a new era. It's the Mike White era. Appreciate you guys
only
listening.
get better.
Appreciate you guys. It's going to be a fun season. Obviously, kick back, watching football, stress free this week. Obviously, you hate to sweat out bets, but y'all want to do picks? We're kind of deep into this.
Yeah, I mean it won't take too long.
Yeah, let's just
roll through it pretty quick.
Yep.
Griff, give us your 4 to start. What's the rest of the records before you go, Griff?
While you look that up, I'll give mine.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
My favorite is going to be Ohio State minus 6.5 first quarter against Oregon State. Against Iowa. If Ohio State scores 1 touchdown, it's over.
Very true. I like that pick.
That one's from Big.
Right.
Shout out to
the
Big.
record. The records are Cole is 15-13-2, Jake is 17-11-2, and I'm 14-16. Got up a little bit last week.
You did. You did. Nice. Congratulations, Griff.
Thanks.
You're still going to Georgia Tech. All right. Here's my picks. I'll just rattle them off and give you a quick reason why. Texas minus 6.5 on the road at Oklahoma State. That line makes no sense to me. Playing this game last week burned me. I took Utah minus the points because it made no sense. It didn't work. So this week I'll get refunded.
Yep. I like it.
My play is it's Cocktober, boys. It is Cocktober. South Carolina at home +3 versus A&M. I think that's a game that looked unwinnable at the beginning of the season. It looks very winnable now. A&M stinks. South Carolina's kind of starting to trend up. A big win against Kentucky, even without Will Levis, that's still a big win. So I'm taking them +3. My over is UCLA, Oregon, over 70. Like I said, the winner of this game is making the playoff. So I just want to watch it and see some fireworks. Over 70, huge number, and then my under is Syracuse, Clemson, under 49.5.
Okay, I'm just going to steal your over. I don't have time to look up another one. My under is going to be Texas A&M, South Carolina, under 44.5. I think Texas A&M's defense buckles down. They probably do lose that game. I would tend to agree with you on that. But I still don't see a lot of points regardless. And my underdog, I'm going to go with Minnesota +5. I think Mo Ibrahim has a day. We saw Penn State get absolutely gashed by Michigan.
I like that.
Give me Minnesota.
I like that. Griff?
All right. Okay. All right. Did you give your under, Jake?
Yeah, Texas A&M, South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Under
40,
I think I got it at 45.
I like that too.
My favorite is going to be Oregon -6 this week versus UCLA. I think they're the team in the Pac-12 now. That first game versus Georgia is long gone in their heads, and UCLA is coming into their turf. I think they win this one. I think
this is UCLA's second game outside of their home stadium, and the only other game was Colorado.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So I think
and
this
if
is
Oregon,
be a way
we've said it
different
before,
environment.
if Oregon wins this game, they have a free ride at the Pac-12 championship. They don't play USC in the regular season. I think they play Washington, but it's at home. So
just in time for them to get crushed by Utah.
They don't want to see Utah. That's for sure.
All right, and I hate to take. I have 2 picks that were the same as yours, Cole. So I'll switch one of them. I'll keep both of them. I really like South Carolina. I have to keep that one.
We'll make that the turtle box play because I like it too.
Yeah.
All right. So South Carolina +3.5 is my underdog. Kansas Baylor over 59.5 is my over. Both those teams can score points. Especially last week, Baylor looked like they could score at will versus West Virginia. West Virginia could score at will versus them. Kansas, I don't want to take Kansas this week +8 because I feel like that's ratty, but I think there are a lot of points are in that game. And then Clemson, Syracuse under 50. I think that's going to be kind of a battle defensively. And the 13 points scares me a little bit because I feel like Clemson might just kind of run it up on them a little bit, but I think we stay under there.
I think so too. I have that. I played that too, so I like the pick.
Love it.
This might be the most agreeable set of picks we've all ever had.
Yeah, for real. That's scary.
And of course, we had to fly through it, but
that is scary. But yeah, guys, appreciate you guys listening. Obviously, follow us on Twitter and follow us on TikTok. Now we've got that really bumping. There's people. TikTok is nuts. We were just reading the comments before this. What an insane place to be.
It's the worst set of.
We might just be like, we might just start posting like just straight polarizing stuff on TikTok just to see people in the comments because it is insane. But yeah, definitely follow us on Twitter. Basketball season's coming up. Tennessee week's coming up. Florida week's is here. We're going to be very active on Twitter for the remaining future of this year. Follow us on there. Subscribe to the podcast. Like this video. Love you guys and go Dogs.